What's happening, man? We gotta get into this Bill Belichick situation. Back to school. I don't see how it's gonna work, man. We kind of talked about it. Oh no, I'm thinking of talking to guys at work. If you're 18, 19, 20 years old, do you want to be listening to grandpa tell you how to play football?
The only thing I think he has, not only thing, but one of the huge things I think he has going for him is that even these guys have seen his success or even heard of his recent success. It's still relatively recent what he has done in terms of championships with Tom Brady.
Yeah, but
Tom
they
has won one,
also saw what he wasn't without Tom
and that's
Brady.
true. But you know what? They saw what he wasn't without Tom Brady. They saw that Tom Brady got himself a Super Bowl without Bill Belichick. But it's still hard to discount that defensive side of it. Even though he's a defensive guy, he still brought along well offenses that did well because Tom Brady was that good. But defensive players may come to him at North Carolina. Mack Brown had that same, I guess, problem back in his first tenure when he had that excellent defense with Julius Peppers and Ebenezer Ekubon, Dre Bly in that secondary. Just, I think he set a record for freshmen. He was a redshirt freshman, but interceptions. But Bill Belichick, and you do make a point because it's man, he's never coached college football before. He's an NFL coach who likes to have control because, well, you just see by his mannerisms, you see the way he's done things and the way players are even spoken about him. He likes to have that control. You don't have that dangling the carrot control anymore in college football with NIL and the transfer portal.
Yeah, and imagine him on the recruiting trail. He's what, 72 years old? Yeah,
Yeah.
is he gonna have the energy? Um, is he even gonna want to go into somebody's living room and tell them why they should go to North Carolina to play football and deal with the parents? That's a whole new ball game.
It is. But I think also you can look back to Bobby Bowden and how he went about it and how Florida State went about it as he had gotten older, and even early on. But when he had gotten older, you have the assistants go out there and recruit. They know it's Bobby Bowden there. They know it's the king of college football out there, one of the kings. And Bill Belichick can do the same. But when you need someone to close the deal, you roll Bill in there, let him do what he does, let the parents look at him nostalgically
He
and know what he
doesn't.
did
We
in the
don't
NFL.
know what he
And,
does.
and we do exactly because at least Bobby Bowden had charm.
We're gonna find out.
When all else failed, you brought Bobby Bowden into the house, and it was hard for you not to sign that paper, or at least not commit to him right there, and then sign on signing day. So Bobby Bowden did have that Southern charm. Everyone seemed to have loved him. You know, I know players who he came to their living rooms like Leon Washington. He was like, it was hard, even though he said the hardest one he had to deal with was Lou Holtz. He was like, yo, that guy has you run into a wall for him, but he chose Bobby Bowden. But I'm wondering though, with Bill Belichick not having that power and these flaky, fickle high school players, that's what they are now. Because I guess they know their worth only because someone has given them their worth with NIL. They're
Right.
going to hold the cards. And I don't think 72-year-old Bill Belichick, with all of these Super Bowl rings, only dealing with pro players for all these years, is going to put up with that crap long term. There is no long term. He's 72.
Yeah. Again, he's gonna be dealing with guys anywhere from 18 to 22, 23 years old, and the younger ones especially. Uh, depending on their backgrounds, how they were raised, he can't be that drill sergeant that he's used to being in the
Yep.
pros.
Yeah, I don't think these players respond to that kind of thing anymore. In fact, I think that's probably the biggest reason why Bill Parcells didn't go to try to coach college after he became the Bill Parcells we know. His personality, especially today, I don't think he can coach the NFL today with the Bill Parcells that we used to
Can
know,
you
the way he
imagine
treated
him
the players.
calling his players "she"?
And
I mean,
stupid. Like Eric, he told that to Glenn, right? The wide
I can't
receiver.
remember who he called "she,"
Yeah,
but he called her. He called the dude "she."
yeah, it was Glenn. What's his name? The wide receiver from Ohio
He,
State.
he
Terry
was
Glenn.
he was
Terry Glenn,
woke.
yeah, she's
He
okay.
was woke before woke was a thing.
Yo, Bill Parcells. That's, in my opinion, that's my favorite coach of all time. I think he's the greatest of all time. Of course, the numbers say he's not, but he is. He spawned that tree that Bill Belichick is a part of, that Peyton is a part of, and Tom Coughlin, anyways. But yeah, Bill Belichick. I'm just wondering, with all of this money going around and these kids with their hands out, deliberately having their hands out, I think what does work in his benefit is the fundraising possibilities for North Carolina now with him there. I think they're going with their NIL with 5 million. Now they're going up to 20 million now that he's been signed. I think that's a good sign.
Yeah, more money is always a good thing when you need it for college players and NIL. So, but getting them on campus is one thing. Getting them to stay for 2, 3, 4 years,
And that's the deal.
that's going to be the issue.
Because the way things are looking right now, players are staying a year or two, and at the end of their career, they've probably played for 2 or 3 teams, maybe even 4 if they could. But
Yeah,
and we even
I,
right
I
now,
I
Cam
don't
Ward,
agree. I don't agree with unlimited transfers. It doesn't make sense. I don't even think it's good for the guys who do it.
it isn't.
They might be doing it thinking it's for their benefit, but are they just chasing the money? I mean, I don't know. Like, I just don't see how being in three different situations in 4 years is a good thing.
For the most part with these college players now, I think they just believe it's not them, it's the team. Sometimes these five-star players have been hearing about it, how great they are and how great they've been. They get to campus and see it's a different game, or even it's an injury. And someone else who's not a five-star takes your job, and it's hard for you to get that job back. And you're like, I gotta go somewhere else. It's not me. I know I'm good when I'm on top of my game, and then you go to the next school and you do a lot of the same, probably without the injuries. You're probably not as good as you thought, but you can't get it out of your head. It's that ego, and then you move on to your third school, and then you probably find out that you know what, it is you, but you're not going to accept it either. You still think the next chance is your best chance, and then you just try to wait it out, and next thing you know, you just lose your opportunity. Whereas there have been players like Cam Ward, his three schools, Incarnate Word, Washington State, now Miami, has himself a Heisman Trophy opportunity. Certainly going to be an early first round draft pick in the NFL draft, but it worked for him. But I don't know if he's the exception or the rule. But either way, if this is the way it seems like it's going to be the rule moving forward. Multiple schools, multiple players going to multiple schools, and still going, I guess, where they thought they should have been in the beginning when they had that first school and all of that excitement. They signed that letter of intent with, and now they're on their third school. Things worked out, so now they're in the NFL. That's what matters.
Yeah, kids staying 4 years at one school in college football is going to be as rare as a potential top five, top 10 pick staying in school for 4 years in basketball.
And that's true. We're not going to have any football versions of Shane Battier out there
Right.
playing the
That's
entire
exactly
time.
what I was thinking of too, by the way.
Yeah, and that's and it's man, I don't even know what to say about what it's going to mean, because for what we know, because we've watched for so long, our entire lives essentially, and you think about college football now, the kids that are growing up now, this is their normal. This is going to be their normal. What we've seen isn't the norm. And what
Right.
we've talked about and laughed about before, the Barry Switzer suitcases or the SMU suitcases, all the way back in the day, breaking the rules. And we looked at that and laughed at it and said, man, that was just crooked. Now you have crooked in the daylight, and people are
Right.
embracing it.
Yeah, it's funny because I was flipping through channels last night and I was watching the SMU 30 for 30. Um, I hadn't seen it in a while. It was pretty good, but there's never gonna be another school get the death penalty
Nah.
because it's all legal now.
Yep, it's all legal, and it's in the daylight, and it's who could spend more. Now, how do they keep this from becoming essentially what it
It,
really is?
it's gonna be
Free
crazy.
agency.
Are they gonna need a salary cap eventually?
I don't know how they're going to regulate this. I don't know how it's going to come about, because if you try to put a cap on it, the kids are going to complain. There's probably going to be a union down the line to where the kids can be in a union, and it's going to make things a lot more tenuous. Or it may come down to that mega conference I've talked about for a while now, expected, but with the SEC and the Big Ten, pretty much other teams joining those conferences, even though they're not in the South or not in the Midwest, because they do have some power, especially on the basketball side. So they're looking at the old kip and caboodle when they're bringing in these teams. But going back a little bit to Bill Belichick, he's never coached in college. We've had coaches who were great in the NFL, came back to college, at least in Bill Walsh's case, back to Stanford, did absolutely nothing. I mean, he was a failure at Stanford. And I think he was at Stanford before he went to the 49ers, went back to Stanford, absolutely nothing. John Robinson, same thing. USC, the Rams, nothing. I mean, USC didn't do much with him the second time around. And Bill Belichick not having any experience at all. And we saw what happened on the other side with Nick Saban not doing anything in Miami, coming back to college football and becoming the legend he is in college football. Different dynamic, but I think it's more of what the NFL does now with college football than what Nick Saban had to deal with when he was in Miami.
Yeah, definitely. But John Robinson went to USC. That's a,
Yeah,
you know, perennial, well, maybe not perennial, but they're a blue blood.
yeah,
North Carolina is not a blue blood
not a blue blood.
football school.
Damn
Basketball,
sure.
sure, definitely, but football. So, are the expectations going to be too high because of Bill Belichick? Can he get North Carolina to that upper echelon?
I
That's
think
kind of
there's a possibility because once again, it's the name. Whether it's good or whether it's bad, people are still talking about Bill Belichick and what he has done. I think it's still enough recent history for parents to even know what he's done. Those Super Bowl rings don't lie, even though people still think it's more of Tom Brady than Bill Belichick. It's still something that's all inspiring to see that this guy, he knows how to get you to the NFL. No one can question that, regardless of who you think got them to these Super Bowls and helped them with
I,
success. You
I
can't take
just
away.
I just think other coaches, other schools have a lot of built-in ammunition already. You know how there's a lot of negative recruiting and bad things
Absolutely.
said about. They're gonna say he came to college because he couldn't get a job in the NFL. He's 72 years old. You don't know how long he's gonna be there, and he can't really dispute that.
No, he can't dispute the age. But going back to him not being a coach in the NFL because no one else had wanted him, that big window of him having nothing but success for about 20 years or so, that's something that the parents of these kids, even if it's a woman, she's heard of probably. If your son's playing football and you're a woman, you probably have heard of Bill Belichick at some point. And if he comes into your living room or he's closing out the recruiting process, you're probably going to listen. And in this age of NIL, I'm thinking now you could make these teams powerhouses in a year or two. We've now seen the teams that were complete doormats like Vanderbilt now become competitive and beat teams like Alabama as they did, and beat Virginia Tech. Beating Virginia Tech was a huge thing when it happened earlier this season until they beat Alabama. And then you realize what the heck is going on in Vanderbilt. But then you see the pieces and parts they had in order to execute that. I just think that Bill Belichick has the name brand. He is old, and I know how the recruiting goes. He's not going to be here long. But guess what? These players aren't going to be there long either, the way it's going now. They'll be there a year or two, but if nothing else, they know he knows what it takes to get to the next level. And he knows what it takes to function at a high level. Deion Sanders isn't as old, he's much more flamboyant, at least from what we see on the outside. We don't know what Bill Belichick says behind closed doors. I've heard just clips of him in practice. He certainly doesn't sound the same way in practice as he sounds at press conferences. He's got some
but
fire to him.
do we really know? Belichick never had any success before nor after
No, he
Brady.
has not.
So
Absolutely.
do
And
we
we've
really
talked about
know?
that.
Do we really know?
No, we don't know. But the
So, well,
college player today,
I'm not confident in his abilities.
well, you know what? The success he needed to have as a team coach, he's had in terms of the Super Bowls and Tom Brady. We know that. But still, those Super Bowl teams
I
had
mean,
top
plus
flight defenses. And he's
he's
a
called
defensive coach.
Belichick. He's called Belichick for a reason. He
The
had
way
his
things are now, no one
he
cares if
had
you
to
cheated.
had to spy on the Rams practices. He had to get the coach signals. I mean, it's ridiculous the things he had to do in order to get that success. And he had the goat, and he still had to do all that bullshit.
And he still won all these games. And ultimately, it comes down to winning. And no one's hiring choir boys on the football field. So I'm sure they can live without a choir boy as the head coach of their team. I'm thinking that he can bring these.
I'm just speaking to his head coaching abilities. Nah,
I
whether
still
he's
look
an
at it.
asshole or not, I'm not even touching that.
I'm still looking at him as a defensive coach and what he had done with those Patriots teams as a defensive coach. Look at those names he had and the way he's made those guys. Those teams are Tom Brady's offensive teams, but those defenses was a big reason why they even got to where they had gotten. You don't even see a lot of records that Tom Brady had broken in a Super Bowl. Throughout all those Super Bowl he's been in, he broke a handful of records. It was the defense that held the fort throughout the season. When you look at all of those great plays he had, Teddy Bruschi has a great play for them. William McGinnis, Rodney Harrison. You just know, go down to Ty Law, Lloyd Malloy, Ted Johnson, just great players for him, and they played their asses off for him. So he's known for his defense. We've seen North Carolina with a good defense before when Mack Brown was there in the '90s, and how great those guys was until
The
he eventually,
90s?
yeah, no, how he had those
The
defensive players.
90s? Come
I
on,
know, but I'm
you
saying
talking
to
about
see
the
that the
90s?
defense can work
I'm
when
just
you
saying
have
if you
someone who
gotta
knows how to
go
do it.
that far back to come up with an example,
No, but that's far back
that's
for North
kinda reach.
Carolina standards, though, not far
Yeah,
back for Bill Belichick standards. Bill Belichick standards are still
I
relatively
think
recent.
that's debatable. I think it's
I don't,
debatable.
well, he has the reins to prove it and show it. And without Tom Brady, he hadn't won. But this is the what if game. He had that and he won with it. I'm kind of interested to see. He's in the ACC. The money has been increased, so now he can go and try to get players. But there are so many other teams out there that are doing the same thing and raising their money to get players. Some can do it much better than others. Of course, it's the top teams who can do it. The Georgias, the Alabamas. Miami has John Ruiz, who's a billionaire. He's heavily invested in the program. So and USC, money everywhere. So yeah, he just came along at the right time in terms of being able to get these players because not just recruiting, but come with a dollar amount, fill the checkbook.